All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps. I think I solved my lighting this week. I just turned my computer around a little bit. To my right, we have Coach Mitchell, South Meck, going to the SoMec Conference Championship, and she predicted that the regular season winner would not win the tournament. So that means that Coach Bean in Providence that didn't lose to a conference team won't win tournament. Is that right? That's what you said. That's what you said.
I know.
Okay.
You know, but ours is the only conference that didn't have a tie at the top. So the other two conferences both had two ties. So it's not really going to play out in the other conferences.
So caveat. And then below to my right, we have Randall Clark, training extraordinaire. Randall, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You made a prediction that Canton and Greensboro Day would meet in the semifinals, and they are going to meet in the semifinals. And your further prediction was that the three-time state champ was not going to win. You sticking by that?
My prediction was that they weren't going to make it to the final, and they're still not going to make it to the final. I'm sticking with it.
I like a man who sticks. I like a man who sticks to his guns. Right below me, the guru, Rick Lewis, Phenom Hoop Report. You can see it on this jacket right there. Coach, you saw like 12 games yesterday. How was that possible? Yesterday being Saturday night. How was that possible?
And well, I started off the day, 2 o'clock, I went to go see Cannon play Wesleyan Christian. Then after that game, I went to go see Carmel play Cape Fear Academy. And then after that, I went over to Charlotte Latin to watch them play Christ School at 6 p.m. So it was a nice day of hoops.
Yeah, I teased Rick on Twitter. I said, you like the Flash. You just run into each gym after the other. But that's why you're the guru, man. You get around. All right, guys, let's jump right into it. Last week, you guys told me conference tournaments weren't that big a deal, did not matter. Conference tournaments are starting on Monday. I got an interesting suggestion from a former state championship coach, Gary Richmond from Vance, who suggested turning this into a state championship type of weekend. He would take 3 teams from each conference, play them out in a round-robin format, have a city championship at the end, recognize the all-conference teams at that time. A, do you guys still stick by your thoughts about conference tournament? And B, what do you think about that idea? And Christy, you can go first.
I love that idea, actually. I think it'd be a much more competitive week. You know, Mondays and Tuesdays games might not be as competitive. Probably if you're going to go see a game Monday or Tuesday, the best bet's to go see the 4 or 5 seed or the 5-6 seeds matchups. So it would definitely make a more interesting week for Charlotte basketball.
Coach Lewis, your thoughts?
I agree. I would love to see it. I agree with the sentiment that the early games, Monday and Tuesday games, are all going to be blowouts, and very seldom do you ever have a 7-8 seed beat a 1 or 2 seed. So that would create a lot of interest in the city of Charlotte having a city championship.
Randall, what would it be like on a Friday, say in the boys, Butler was playing, North Meck was playing Olympic for the city championship. And there's a big old trophy sitting over there. What would that look like?
I mean, it would be a jam-packed gym. They'd have to have, you'd have to get there early, that's for sure. It'd be like going to North Meck for one of their home games because, you didn't get there an hour or 2 before, you probably weren't getting in. But kind of like what Coach Mitchell said, it makes it mean something. I think, right now it doesn't mean too much to people. I think, it would be a lot of pride in trying to bring home that city championship.
Well, I can tell you, I've asked the state about such a thing before, and they said as long as it fits into the game parameters, they'd be okay with it. So I think his suggestion really could work if the CMS schools, including Coach Mitchell, decided they wanted to do such a thing. And the teams that didn't make the tournament could obviously schedule, a couple more games during the week against each other if they wanted to. But same question, Coach Mitchell. If, say, South Meck was playing Mallet Creek for the city championship, what would that be like on the girls' side?
One thing, that'd be a really hard game, especially whenever you're looking at the very next week, going to start the conference or the state playoffs. So, I can see positives and negatives. I think for the city, it would be great as bragging rights. You're able to see, really where do you stand in the city, but really it's a preview of the state playoffs because for girls basketball, you're going to be beating each other up next week. Why do you want to beat each other up this week? And, who's going to come out this week with no injuries and ready to keep going to battle out Charlotte. To get out of Charlotte is the toughest road to the state championship.
How much different, though, would that be versus South Meck playing Providence on Friday for the South Meck championship, Southern Meck championship? Isn't that the same thing?
Somewhat. I agree. I think there's definitely positives and negatives to that.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, guys, look, the conference tournaments are happening this week. You know, my wishes, Randall's wishes notwithstanding. I want to know, Christy, who's going to win these things. I'm going to let you stay away from the SOMEC, but tell me who's going to win in the Southwestern 4A, who's going to win in IMEC.
Okay.
I need one team.
Okay.
One team.
That was tough. So I did my research today, and in the IMEC conference, Vance versus Mallard Creek. They're both tied at the top of the conference, 12-2. They split regular season. December, Mallard Creek beat them 61-58. In January, Vance took it 47-36. Both teams are pretty much both have five players contributing big minutes and big stats. But I really think the difference in this next matchup is going to be Vance's size. Vance has the sisters, the Moreland girls that are 6'1" and 6'2", and I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. They're combining, averaging 23 points, 15 rebounds a game. So for this one, I'm going to lean towards Vance and say they're probably going to win it, and mainly because I think that the big girls inside are going to be a big problem for Mallard Creek.
Well, I think that's interesting you say that, because I got a Twitter DM from Amaya Moreland on Tuesday night saying we don't talk about Vance enough. So, Amaya, there you go. You got a prediction to win the conference tournament. Now, who's going to win the Southwestern, Chris?
Southwestern, the same thing. You got Myers Park and Butler up at the top, 13-1. They only lost to each other in conference play. December, Myers Park beat them 68-56. January, Butler turned around and beat them 46-41. Myers Park goes 11 deep, and just looking at the minutes played and the rotation that Barbara's got going, 4 of their players are compiling most of their points. They've compiled almost 1,100 of their 1,400 points. And Butler is going 7 deep, with really those 7 players being, compiling most of the points. So on this one, I'm leaning towards Myers Park because just the depth that they have. Mm-hmm. They have so many girls that can step in. I think Myers Park's going to run them, and only going 7 deep. I think that, Butler might get a little winded, might get tired. So for this one, Myers Park.
I'll tell you what, if it comes down to X's and O's, and Mark Sanders won his 200th game recently, phenomenal coach at Butler. But Barb Nelson is the dean. She's won 700 games. I mean, she just knows how to win big games. It'd be hard to bet against her. Randall, real quick, tell me, do you agree with her predictions in those 2 conferences? And then tell me who's going to win the SOMEC conference.
I do. I agree with both. I agree with both the predictions. I said Myers Park was going to win it, and so again, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to go with Coach Nelson and the Mustangs. I thought that the matchup with Vance and Mallard Creek, for the same reasons that Coach Mitchell said, inside, I just don't know how Mallard Creek's going to match up with them. I think on the perimeter they're kind of even, but I think that the sisters inside, will really dominate the paint and dominate that game. And I saw.
Now hold on. Do I need to put Coach Mitchell's mic on mute before you give this prediction?
We probably need to put it on mute. But I will preface it this way: I saw Providence play Audrey Kell at Audrey Kell on their senior night, Friday night, in a super competitive girls basketball game.
Absolutely.
And they got up 7. Audrey Kell came back, and they never got rattled. They were never shook. It's going to be a tough road for them. But I think they're going to keep this streak going and finish it up with a conference championship, a tournament championship as well.
Okay, I'm going to go Mallard Creek. I'm going to go Myers Park, and I'm going to go South Meck. I'm going to pick an upset in the SOMEC. I'm going to go South Meck. All right, Coach Lewis.
Thanks,
I know you're. Well, I may regret that, but people are going to be killing me on Twitter. That's what I think. Coach Lewis, let's talk boys. CMS predictions.
I'm at North Meck, 23-1, 14-0 in the conference. They got a juggernaut at North Meck. Coach Lewis has done a great job this season. Again, they have a roster full of D1 players. Jordan Crawford came up, the sophomore, had a big game this last week, had 18 points.
Talk about him.
You did. You called it. They just have a farm system with their JV program, which is really tremendous. I don't think anyone's going to give North Meck any competition in that one. In the Southwestern Conference, I'm going to go with Indy. I would have probably gone with Hickory Ridge, but Jordan Marsh is out for the rest of the season, so that's a big injury for Hickory Ridge. Indy is 12-2, 17-7, but they're really on a roll. I think they had some games early in the season where they took their lumps and losses, but they seem to be gelling quite well. And think about this, Langston. Think of the job Preston Davis has done at Independence. He graduated from last year's team, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget anybody, but A.J. McKee at Queens, Matthew Smith, Murray State, Tyler Harris, Western Carolina, Raja Milton, Lewisburg, and Miles Paulden, Averett. He lost 5 collegiate scholarship players off that roster, and he's now 17-7, tied for first place in the Southwestern, and I do think they're going to win the conference. In the South MEC, I think it's a toss-up between Olympic and Audrey Cale. Olympic's 18-5, 10-2, and Audrey Cale's 18-6, 9-3. I'm going to go with Audrey Cale since they came in second. My thought process there is there's more motivation for them because they came in second, whereas Olympic won the conference, and I'm thinking just the psychological edge goes to Audrey Cale in that particular game.
Okay, Randall. Before that, North Mex JV you mentioned has won like 95 straight games, something crazy. They do have a monster over there. Randall, your thoughts on boys basketball CMS?
I agree with Coach Rick. North Meck runs away with it. I don't see anybody really being able to challenge them. I think they just have too much firepower. I think they're going to roll. Interesting matchup. Indy Myers Park at Myers Park in the old gym. It's going to be hot. It's going to be packed. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Myers Park to get that conference championship, especially with the injury to Jordan, like Coach Lewis mentioned. And then I'm going to agree with him. I think Audrey Cale finishing second. They're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. And they really, they know they didn't win the conference regular season. They're going to definitely try to get this tournament championship.
Okay, on the boys' side, I'm going to go North Meck, obvious pick. I have North Meck going all the way to the state championship. In the Southwestern, I like Myers Park at home. They gave them a close game before. I think Independence and Myers Park is a toss-up. I think that big crowd, that emotion will get Myers Park over the hump. And I'm going to go Olympic in the SOMEC. I think Josh Banks is the best player in Charlotte. I think he's going to figure out a way to get them over the top. I've really been impressed with him this year.
Langston, I put a poll out today on Twitter trying to get some thoughts.
Yes, you did.
And the Twitter audience thinks 49% thinks Providence girls are going to win it. 40% thinks that Mallard Creek girls are going to win. And then again, the Southwestern, Myers Park and Butler both were tied at 35%. So
you guys agreeing with the social media people. That's pretty good. All right, Rick, we have the NCISAA state semifinals and finals are going to be in Charlotte Friday and Saturday. And you saw Randall's favorite team this past week, Charlotte Latin. What were your thoughts on the Hawks?
They're pretty good. That was the first time I saw them play all season. I didn't watch them last year. But they're very well coached. They're disciplined. They run their offense extremely well. They love the dribble drive, kick out, and they shoot threes extremely well. Mm-hmm. They hit 10 threes against Christ School. And, they were undermanned up front. Going against, 6'10", Justice Agabor, and they also had Deontay Grant, who's a 6'9" power forward, who are pretty much ranked players. But they did a great job defensively. Every time I went to the low post, they doubled down. They really created havoc with Christ School. And, of course, Christ School just doesn't, with the size, they can't play them man-to-man. And what they did was they were playing a trapping zone. And Charlotte Latin just dribble, drive, kick, and they were hitting threes the entire night. But they're very, very well coached. I was very impressed with them.
Who wins Durham Academy, Charlotte Latin? Gets to the finals. Who is it?
It's going to come down to who's hitting the three-point shot. Both teams are very similar. They're both a reflection of each other. They don't have MJ Rice with Durham Academy, but they do have a pretty good point guard, just like Randy Johnson, and they got two really good shooters. Both of them extremely well coached. It's going to be a chess match. Whoever's hitting the three-point shot is going to win the game, and that's, I think, it in a nutshell.
Randall, you know how hard those rims are at Providence Day. It's going to be hard to make threes over there. So what do you think is going to happen when that game comes down?
Well, I tell you this: there's a lot of Charlotte Latin people watching this tonight. They couldn't wait to hear what you had to say, and they were telling me after the game that they couldn't wait to hear from you, Langston.
I got a prediction. I have a prediction. It's coming. It's coming.
No, I think Coach Lewis hit it right on the head. Coach Berger is one of the best coaches,
right.
If not the best coach in the area. They're going to come out. They're going to game plan for Durham Academy, but these are two teams that are just alike. Durham Academy won a game earlier this season at their place when they had MJ Rice, who is not playing, but it's still going to be a tough one. Like Coach Lewis said, they both shoot the three. They both like to execute offensively. So it's really going to come down to who can shoot the ball well. And like you said, those rims at Providence Day are really tight.
Not friendly.
And they look, somebody actually asked me, I wonder if we're going to be able to get a shoot around at Providence Day before the game. So I don't think it's a secret. So it's really gonna be one of those games where you don't have a lot of room for error because they're so similarly matched. You got to take care of the basketball. You can't mess up defensive assignments, and you just got to hope that shots are falling.
Charlotte Latin hadn't won a state championship since the early 90s, I believe. And I think this is their best year, best chance to win it. I think the stars are lined up really well for them. I think they really got a good team thing going. Their JV was undefeated 24-0. Shout out to them. I think Chris Berger really has it going, kind of like Jerry Faulkner at one point had it going. I see Latin beating Durham Academy in the upset. I see them getting to the championship, and I see Cannon and Greensboro Day having a fit, whichever one makes it to the finals. I'm still not sure which one I see going. But I think Latin definitely has a chance to win. I'm not ready to pick a winner yet, but I definitely think Latin has a chance to win.
I was going to say one thing about Latin, too, is they have a roster of juniors and seniors. So they're more of a veteran-type team, and I think that might be the edge that they have over Durham Academy.
Yeah. While you're talking, Coach Lewis, Randall, we already know how Randall feels about Cannon beating Greensboro Day. Do you see Freddie Johnson going out in the semifinals?
We had an earlier podcast. Hey, we had an earlier podcast. We had a podcast on Phenom Hoops, and I just flipped a coin. I think it's one of these games that it could go either way. I'm like you, Langston. On paper, I think Cannon is very talented. You got Jaden Bradley, Jarvis Moss, you got DJ Nix, and now you have Christian Reeves being inserted into the lineup. He's been hurt the majority of the season. He played limited minutes, and he had 9 points, had a handful of rebounds. He blocked a few shots, but he got his hands on a lot of stuff. So if he can get some valuable minutes, he will create some problems on the interior against Greensboro Day.
This could be the start of a new private school dynasty on Friday night. I think Jaden Bradley's the third best player, period, in North Carolina. I think there's Isaiah Todd. I think there's Josh Hall. And I think there's Jaden Bradley. And I think if they win this game, Jaden Bradley's a sophomore. And Jarvis Moss is a junior. And DJ Nix is a sophomore. And Christian Reeves is a sophomore. I think they have a chance to really start something on Friday night. But they got to do what Randall says they're going to do. Christy, girls side, Providence stays in. They've made the state semifinals 16 times in a row. Are they going to win a state championship this weekend?
I think this is going to be their toughest game versus Cannon. I know they beat Cannon twice this year, but both teams are shooting about 39% from the field. Mm-hmm. They're both averaging about 55 points a game, about 31 rebounds a game, 12 steals a game. They're on paper, they look very similar. It's just Reagan Richardson, 23 points, 8 rebounds. And, she's really the engine of that team. Providence Day's beat them twice this year. Both games were pretty close. I think that it's going to be a really good game on Saturday. Providence Day has home court advantage, so that's one thing in their favor. So I'm gonna say Providence Day is going to do it again. But I think it'll be a tough one.
Any thoughts, Randall?
It's a really good game.
Girl side, Randall. Any thoughts?
It's hard to beat a good team 3 times in a year. I completely understand that. But I think giving Coach Springer a week to prepare for Reagan Richardson and the girls over at Cannon, I think it's going to give Providence Day a great shot, especially with them playing at home.
He was coaching a decade by us for a reason. The man knows how to win. He's won like 38 state championships. 2A, 3A, Randall, Rick, is it Davidson Day? Is it Concord First Assembly? Can anybody beat them? Carmel Christian got upset in the 3A. Can anybody beat them?
No. I said last week Davidson Day was going to win it. I said I'm sticking with that. Concord First Assembly, I'm sticking with that. I am interested to see if what that championship game is going to look like for Davidson Day, though.
Well, we will be there. Or is it Latin, right?
I think they're at Latin.
Yeah. Will they let me in Latin? Can I go?
I'm sure they're probably going to charge you double.
No media pass for Langston.
I'll tell you what, one of the best state finals I've ever seen in my life was at Latin. United Faith was playing Word of God when
John Wall and Ian Miller.
John Wall and Ian Miller hit a shot from the volleyball line to buzzer. That's one of the best basketball games I've ever seen at any level in my life. So if any of those games can match that one, if any of those games can match that one, I'd be totally fine with it. Guys, next week, the public school state championship parents come out Saturday coming. That's like a holiday for high school basketball. Everybody's paying attention to who they're going to play. Coach Mitchell, do you like the way we do the seedings, and how excited are you about coming to those state playoffs?
I'm really excited about it. I'm kind of wishy-washy about the seeding process. You know, high school OT puts out projections, and a lot of times they're really close to what it ends up being. I've seen the projections change over the last 2 weeks, and today they came out with the most recent. The one thing that I don't like is the split conferences. You have McDowell right now as a 6 seed, and I don't remember what their record was, but it was like horrible, maybe 5 wins, something like that. And to give a team in a split conference a first round bye just because that's what the paperwork says, I think that there needs to be a little bit, something different needs to happen. Teams that automatically don't have winning records, maybe they forfeit their automatic bid to the tournament. I just think that's the only tweak that I think I would make is, just because you finished first out of your 3A, 4A split conference, you could have finished 6th overall, but you finished first out of the 3A or first out of the 4A, you get an automatic bid. So I think that, maybe revisit that a little bit, but other than that, I think it's all right.
Now, I won't ask you about teams coming out of the East, but tell me who's going to get to the finals. I know you think Freedom's going to get to the finals of 3A. Are there any other teams you think are just absolutely got a really heavy shot to get there?
I think Freedom's the only one that's just got a clear path. I mean, looking at Charlotte, it's anybody's game. It's anybody has that chance. I keep looking where South Mech is, and I'm like, oh, wow, we're here with, last week we were with Glenn, going to Glenn in the 3rd round if we made it there. And then this week it was Mallard Creek. Last week it was Vance, wherever it is. And I'm sitting there thinking, put me in the bracket out of Charlotte. Put me going to Glenn. Even if they're their number 2 seed, I'd rather go play a team, a number 2 from a different area than battle it out right here.
Well, I'll tell you what,
a lot of these Charlotte teams are matched up together. And, you got a 1st round or a 2nd round, sometimes even a conference opponent. I don't like that at all. You have teams in the 2nd round that could get to the state championship, but they win another bracket playing against each other. Yep.
That's the tough part. But in 3A, though, I mean, I like Freedom too, but Carson and West Rand, that conference we talked about, if you got to play some of those teams, it's going to be tough. And then 2A, I like East Burke. East Burke looks really good in 2A. And I think it's Greystone Day, Community School of Davidson going to be tough in 1A. That's going to be a good – I'm excited about the girls' side of the playoff bracket. Boys' side, Coach Mitchell and Randall, are there, other than North Mech, is there an overwhelming favorite you guys see in the West that's definitely going to get to the state finals?
Oh, okay. I think it's kind of wide open. Like similar to the girls' side, you're going to have a lot of these teams that are going to match up early, that are going to beat up on each other. The Olympic Audrey Kell, you're probably going to see that one early. So I don't think that it's just a runaway like North Mech. So it's going to be fun to see what ends up happening.
I think it's sort of like the NCAA tournament. I think you're going to have a lot of teams that will gain momentum once the conference tournament starts next week and they win a few games in the sectionals. But I do think Olympic, Audrey Kell, just to name a few, independents will make a deep run into the playoffs as well. But I do think North Mech should get to the state championship game.
Yeah, and some of the lower classes, Freedom might have a boys team going to the state finals along with the girls team. Their boys look really good. I think they're going to have a really good shot to make a run. Lincoln Charter down in 1A, I think I'm just making a shot to make a run. Lake Norman Charter in 2A. I mean, there's a lot of teams from around here who can make really deep playoff runs. Forest City. Oh, absolutely. First unbeaten Union County team regular season history. So shout out to Forest Hills. And they've been to 2 straight state finals, so they definitely have a shot to go to a 3rd. And the 2A in the East is just bananas. I mean, so whoever gets there is going to That's going to – I hope they do put the 2A and 4A together so I can see that 2A final. That should be pretty.
And Langston, a sleeper team, I think, too, is Cox Mill. I think – think about what Todd Johnson's done at Cox Mill this year. They lost basically 99% of their scoring from last year in Wendell Moore. and they're 21-3. So they've done a remarkable job, and they're doing it by committee. They're all buying in, and I think that they can make some damage and some noise in the 3A playoffs.
He'd have to be a candidate for Charlotte Observer Coach of the Year right at this moment as we're sitting here talking. That definitely. I want to ask you guys, which state tournament do you think is going to end up being better or tougher to win? Is it going to be the public schools or the private schools? And Christy, you can start on the girls' side. Which one do you think is going to be tougher?
I say hands down the public schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Randall.
A lot of competition.
I would agree the public school just because it's a little bit, you got more teams, a little bit more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think public schools is definitely deeper. I think there's some really good teams up top of the private schools, but I think there's a lot below that wouldn't match up very well with the public schools. Let's flip it on the boys' side, Rick. Which do you think is going to be better, and which one would be tougher?
Well, I think tougher overall would be the public school side as far as the number of quality teams there. I think on the private school side, you have some really quality teams, but you don't have as much depth on the private school side as you do the public. Now, if you look at Max Preps, for example, 6 of the top 10 teams in the Max Preps top 10 all belong to the private school, and that's Concord First Assembly, who's ranked number 1 right now in the state. You also have Davison Day, number 5, Greensboro Day, 6, Carmel was ranked 7th, if you're not upset, Cannon 8, and Trinity Christian 9. You only have 2 on the public school side that's in the top 10. But again, as far as depth, the public schools have more schools, and they're going to have more depth and more balance. Whereas on the private school, you're going to have those 2 to 3, 4 teams that are really top heavy at each classification.
Randall, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with it. I did say that this was going to be a year where there would be a little bit of parity, and we got that. In the 4A, you had a couple upsets early, but the main 4 are the ones still standing. But like Coach said, it's really tough at the top, but there's it's not as balanced, and there's not as much competition as it is on the public school side.
Yeah, I definitely think. For a while, private school was like clearly above. I think definitely kind of leveled out. I think definitely you guys point to private school being not as deep as the public. Definitely is there. I think the private school is probably a little better up top, but not as deep down in the middle. All right, guys. Now it's time for 45-second shot clock. We're going to start with Coach Mitchell. 45 seconds.
I got the Select 60s coming up. The Select 60 Showcase is the first girls basketball all-invitation individual showcase in North Carolina. We've been going on for 7 years. Invitations go out this week. And it's pretty much a selection committee all over the state chooses the top 60 girls all over the state to come in for a Saturday of skill development and competition and games. It's on Saturday, March 28th at South Neck. And so kids need to make sure you're bugging your high school coaches. Nominations I believe we're done with nominations right now. So we've compiled a great group of kids, hoping to see a lot of girls in Charlotte right after the state playoffs are over and just to come in and compete. The boys do this a lot. On the boys side, I know Rick has an event similar to the Select 60. And 7 years ago, right before Dave Tellup's Carolina's Challenge went away, we kind of used his blueprint to develop what we do as the Select 60. So it's going to be a good week, and follow Select 60 on Twitter and Instagram, and hopefully you'll get invited.
All right, well, Rick has his top 80 coming up as well. But Rick, what's your 45-second shot clock?
First of all, I have to give a shout out and a thank you to Hickory Ridge. At the beginning of the season, you guys asked me for the sleeper team, and I mentioned Hickory Ridge, and my phone literally blew up. I had text message and put Hickory Ridge with a question mark. So Hickory Ridge, I went out and watched them in open gym, and I saw the talent level they had. They went 20-4 this year, 12-2 in the conference. They tied for the conference championship with Independence. They've done a remarkable job. They're young. They have everybody returning, so they're going to be very, very good next year. The other shout out I want to make is to North Meck. I think 2 things. Coach Dwayne Lewis is his 7th straight year winning 20-plus games. That's a remarkable feat. Number 2, their JV program, and we don't really talk about JV teams. North Meck's JV team has gone 5 straight years without losing a game. And I think that's a great farm system. And people look at the success of North Meck, and they go, well, they always have a lot of good talent. But there's also, it's like a farm system. The players that go to North Meck, it's better to play on the JV team and get that playing time and experience than other kids playing varsity and sitting on the bench and not getting any playing time. Because once the season starts, there's very few, and Christy will attest to this, there's very little skill development. You don't have a chance to work on your skills. And I think at North Met, by having the JV program, they've done a remarkable job there as far as developing a pipeline to their varsity program. And the proof's in the pudding. 7 straight years, 20 plus. Last thing, we will start doing our invites to the North Carolina Top 80, which will be Sunday, March the 15th. It's going to be at Greensboro Day. It's going to be 80 kids max. All the games will be live streamed on the Hoop State Network. We're expecting this to be one of the best premier events in the state of North Carolina for the top 80 players.
Yeah, it always has been. You guys do a great job of that. And Christy does a great job of her Select 60 as well. And I think you guys need to take advantage of these 2 avenues if you can. Shout out to North Meck. I remember when Dwayne Lewis was hired as the coach at North Meck, and he was replacing a legend, Leroy Holden, who had won more than 400 games, taking them to a state championship in 1987, I think it was. And he was kind of the foil for Charles McCullough at West Charlotte for years and years and years. And nobody thought that Dwayne, this guy who had played for Leroy and kind of been his mentee for all these years, could take over and do a good job. There was legitimate concern that the program was going to fall down on his face, and Dwayne has taken that program to heights it's never seen before. And so you just got to give him credit for doing so, especially this year. He's lost one of his best players and just kept on rolling.
Well, and one other thing, too, is, Dwayne Lewis went to North Meck. He graduated, played there.
Yes.
But, there's a lot of people that in the coaching profession, if you asked him his dream job, he would tell you it was North Meck. I mean, he would never go anywhere else. And the amount of passion he has for North Meck and the players there is, unsurpassed by anybody out there.
Absolutely. All right, Randall, you can bring us home this week. Your 45-second shot clock, and I bet it has something to do with a team that wears navy and white.
That's funny. I want to take this time to just thank everybody who watches this every week. I get a true joy, and I think it's hilarious that people come up and comment on the stuff that we say on here and have an opinion. I can't tell you how many text messages I got about being wrong or how I like a certain team too much. It is hilarious, and I think we all have a fun time doing this, and hopefully you when you watch, you learn something from it. But I appreciate all the people that come up and talk to me about what we say on the show, good, bad, or indifferent.
No, it's fun. I had a great time doing it with the football guys. Can't wait to get started with them again next year and having a great time with you all. And I really do like Charlotte Latin. I tease Randall all the time. I mean, I think Coach Berger does a great job. I covered him when he played for Jerry Faulkner. I've known him for quite some time. And I really do think they have a chance to win a state championship this weekend. So next week, we're going to talk about private school state champions. We're going to talk about public school playoffs. I mean, it's really getting to the good, fun, and nitty-gritty. Eventually, we're going to pick our Talking Preps all-star teams. I can't wait to see what you guys think, because people always get on me about the teams I pick. I'm going to let you guys pick a team. We're going to put it out there. So we'll get together next week. We'll do it again. Thanks a lot, guys.
Have a great day.